Your mom and dad will always see you as a boy.
I can't remember the exact scripture, but I know for sure there's a scripture in the Bible that says, when you get married, you leave
Mother.
your mother and go and become your own. It shouldn't be his salary, her salary. It's the family's salary.
Welcome to Dr. Emmett Coffee Time, Lula. Before we start, I know that we're going to talk a little bit about finance. I feel that a lot of people today, with the economy that's bad, unemployment that's so high, men are earning less than women because of BEE. I think that basically people are struggling. And I would like you to talk about and advise pre-married couples, blended couples. What can they put in place to help them in long term? We're not going to talk about investments today because this is not about investments. It's about working together as a couple financially and how to stay strong even during this trying time in the economy because it does affect the marriage. Finances affect the marriage. Everything that I'm talking about and recording is about affecting the marriage. And so we just want you to help with the pre-married and those who are married and have difficulties. And then those who are going to be blended family, like, how would you advise them that to do? Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Doctor, and thank you for all the opportunity to share my views about this very crucial topic. As you said, my name is Zach Rura. I'm a qualified chartered accountant. I work in a finance department in one of the local banks here in the country. This topic of finance, like you said, is very crucial, and it can negatively impact couples that are married about to get married if it's not dealt with appropriately. So for starters, for those that are about to get married, my advice will be, discuss this topic before you embark on this beautiful journey of marriage. You need to, as far as I'm concerned, you need to share your salaries, with your wife, with your husband. And I know from an African man point of view, it's sometimes a challenge because most of us were, raised in environments where, the husband or the man is the provider. The wife doesn't have to know how much you earn as long as you buy the groceries and provide for the kids. The rest that is left in the bank account, is for the men to manage and do whatever they so wish with that. But in the modern day, like we said, things are difficult and there's a lot of challenges. So the big thing that I'll advise the couples that are about to get married, get counseling. Speak to the people who've walked the journey. Speak to the professionals that know so much about the topic of finance. And the key thing is circumstances change when you get married. You may be doing fine before you venture into marriage. So when circumstances change, sit around the table, share the spreadsheets, discuss. Sometimes I know it's difficult for men to approach their partners to say, I've my salary has been cut, or this year I didn't get as big a bonus that I got, in the previous years. Then they find themselves going into debt because they've got this pride. They don't want to tell their wives or their partners what is going on with them financially. So before you get married, speak to the people with the know-how. And I mean, before you get married, I know you sometimes go counseling with your pastors in the villages. You can talk to the old men in the village. Use those old men and women as your sounding board before you actually get into the actual marriage. They've walked the walk. They've seen their siblings, their kids, their neighbors go through what you're about to go through. So use those as your standing
Can
board.
I
Yeah.
add, if you're going to use, elders are amazing. They get a lot of advice, they support the children. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, The challenge is that if you lived in a village, you're taking the advice of your father or uncle in the village and you marry a city girl. That's what I work with. Is the fact that he's the provider and makes the final decision, and the wife is not able to cope with that because she has also studied, she's also acquired skills, she's also a professional, and I can't tell a man, just marry someone in the village because that's the route, the journey that you're going to take. But always be aware that you've been raised in the village, been raised in the high school, you come to university in the city. The likelihood that you're going to marry someone that has city girls, and a lot of them are from cultures. For example, not that I want to highlight the vendor. I mean, my husband liked the vendor culture with her. He said I should have been in the wife, right? So that is why I know he's been into vendor.
Yes.
But a vendor woman here in the city would say, no, this is not how I do things. You must cook also. And you also need to take care of the kids. And he also needs to allow me to make decisions financially. So I just needed to bring that in as well. But
Yeah.
I really agree with what you're saying.
Yes, I mean, you absolutely spot on. Being a village boy, myself, I can relate to what you're saying. And I happen to be, married to a city girl. But what you then just need to know is, when you come into this marriage, it's not you, it's not her, it's the both of you. So she's gonna bring, herself into the picture, like you said. Now, how she was raised, she probably saw her mom take decisions in the household. You didn't see your mom take, decisions in the household. But then, if you want to make this, union work, you have to listen to each other. And I don't think there's ever going to be a union without a compromise. I'm going to have to bring down some of my, village boy traits, and she would most definitely have to bring down some of her, city girl traits so that we can make this thing work. So that's the key.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's wonderful. I think that in terms of couples, there's always been said that the percentage that if you're going to if you're going to work as a couple, right, and you're going to put your finances together, they usually say each one provides according to the percentage of the income, which means if the husband earns 30%, 30,000, and the wife earns 10,000, you can't say 50% each,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
Because the one is.
Being an accountant, the balance
How
is
do
their
we
own
do that?
balance.
Tell me,
Yes.
how do they do that? And they say, wow, we're fair, 50% each. It's not fair if you earn 30,000 and you
Yes.
give 50% and your wife earns 10,000 and she earns, and she must give 50%. I mean, how's she going to survive having to pay all the other little things for the kids? And kids run to mommies. No, we want to go picnic, we want to go on this. And mommies have to take this little stuff. It actually adds up so much when they've got to use,
Yeah.
other than the budget.
I mean, I hear you say that, but how I would advise the couples is to say, there shouldn't be his salary, her salary, is the family's salary, right? So she puts however much she earns on the table, I put however much on the table, and that money combined is then what we use for the family, for the family responsibilities. Yes. So it should not be 50% of what he or what she earns. We take whatever we both earn, put it on the table, and that should then go towards the responsibilities that we need to cover.
So you as a village boy are very much aware of the black tax, right?
Yes.
So when you marry your first wife, it's difficult because you've just started off. It is, the black tax is a bit difficult. But now you've sort of improved financially, you've had promotions. But now the blended family, that becomes even more complicated. Or is it just basically the same thing? It's just now the other mother-in-law is just off the list and we have a new mother-in-law on the list. Or that becomes a challenge in terms of my mom lives in the village, right?
Yeah.
My dad is a lawyer in the city and she's a teacher. In this case, can you get upset if the husband gives his mom more? She's a village mom. and his mom and dad is a little bit. Then it's that rule. Yeah, but what you do for your mom, you must do. What you do for my mom, you must do for my. What you do for your mom, you must do for my mom. And how would you balance that out as a finance person? What would you tell that
Yeah,
couple?
again, it goes back to that pre-marriage stage, right? You have to discuss these things before you get into the union to say, I come here as Zach, these are my financial responsibilities. You come here as doctor, these are your financial responsibilities. Combined per month, this is how we're going to put on the table. Can we afford to still take care of our needs as a couple, as a family, and then support the 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 parents, for example. But again, it goes back to you getting together as a union. I take it that it's very important for me to support my mom. That's a critical value for myself,
And you will not compromise on
and
that.
I will not compromise
And if a
on
woman
that.
wants you to compromise on that, that is a big problem because
That
you're not
is
going to.
that is going to cause friction. So it's something that we need to discuss and agree to disagree on before we start, because I will feel incomplete. I won't feel whole as a human being, and most probably in the union, if I know my mom is dying of hunger wherever she is, right? But again, it's not only my mom and my dad. It should also be her mom and her dad, right? So we should then probably reach a compromise to say, if we are saying supporting our parents, it's not only my parents, it's not only your parents. We then support both sides of the family.
But it can't be equal percentage if the one is independent and financially independent.
Yeah, it can be equal percentage, but like I said, it goes back to the discussions and the agreement.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So for example, you are the son and a husband from the village, and medical aid is important to you
Yes.
for your mom, right?
Yes.
That's non-negotiable. So you're not going to. That's not going to. You're not going to give in. Are you going to give in?
No,
If the medical aid is just too much and it's getting higher and higher, are you
I,
going to give in
I
and
won't
say,
I won't give in. But I think the advice that I'll give to my fellow men is, you have to discuss these things with your wife. You have to discuss these things with your wife. And as far as I'm concerned, it should not get to a point where, for example, now you want to cancel your wife's medical aid because you are paying your mom's medical aid. Now you want to take your kids to a school that, you probably will not take them to if you're not paying for your mom's medical aid, for example. So it should be done in a manner that it doesn't compromise the quality of life for your family first, right? If it gets to that, then it's a discussion that you need to have with your parents to say, I'm married now, I've got other expenses. Maybe used to be on option, 7. How about we downgrade you to option 3 because my kids need to go to that school, my wife needs medical aid, or whatever the case is. But as men, we should not make that mistake of doing that, supporting the parents behind our wives. That is just utmost wrong. Or doing that, in a manner that disadvantages either your wife or your kids. I don't see that as correct.
I'm referring you as a son, a husband, but you're also from the village, but you're also a village boy. Why I'm saying that is not derogatory or biased. Is your mom and dad will always see you as a boy.
That's true.
There's no, you can't change that. I mean, you're a man now. You're a husband, and this here is the boy, and that boy there in the city must do 1, 2, and 3. Am I right? We won't be able to change it.
That's
How are
true.
we going to let the wives know? You cannot change them. He's the little boy in the family. He might be a lawyer or a chartered accountant, but in
Yes.
their eyes, he's still a boy.
Yeah. So
Am I correct?
that's true, right? I mean,
And how do you fight that?
it's a very big fight, right? And it works on both sides. I always say, there's also a good side to that. That they always want to be protective of me. They always want to make sure I'm happy, my family is doing well, and all of that. But it also gets to the other side now, where they want to mother me in my own household, right? I mean, I can't remember the exact scripture, but I know for sure there's a scripture in the Bible that says, when you get married, you leave your mother and become your own. I always say this to my mom,
And you, yeah,
to
and
say
you,
yes, to say, yes, you've raised me, I'll always be your boy, but now the Bible that you taught me from, age zero says, I need to leave you and go become my own person. I don't only become my own person by leaving your household, financially also, you should let me be and, provide and manage my finances with my wife,
sakes, this is a huge thing, hey?
Yes, it
This is
is.
a huge thing in marriage. And when couples come, it's not a cut and dry situation. You have to take each couple within their own background and their own perspective, where they're coming from, and try and help them, not do it for them, but try and help them to find some mutual agreement. It is very hard. But I must say that there are people that can do it.
Yes. And I
And
think
have done it. And I think it's very important, if you want your way all the time as a wife, or you want your way all the time as a husband, that is when the problem comes in, because the skill that you need before you get married and when you are married is to be able to negotiate, because marriage is just going to be stressful, because finance is already a stressful thing.
correctly.
Now you're not able to negotiate and come to some conclusion. You just want to separate. You know what? I'm done. This is going on for years. And so it's really that skill to come together and be able to say, okay, this time it's my turn. You chose with the children, you chose which school, which was the best school for primary, it's my turn. I'm going to choose the best high school for my child. It's the ability to give and take and not feel I have the right to do this. And I have to do this because I am more. So that makes me the main decision maker. It's not going to last because we're all human beings and we are in the city and we come with our own backgrounds and we come with the way we were raised. So for example, Zex was in the village and dad bought a couch. They didn't ask mommy, now, what couch do you want, my darling? Right, Zex? You're just going to
That's
see
precisely
Louis
that. I can just
or
see my dad
Ellerines
doing
arrives there. I don't know if they're still around. They arrive there with this couch. And mama's knocking, just says, oh, why are you bringing a black couch? She just says,
Yes.
thank you, my darling. Very appreciative. And she cannot understand why the wife is complaining when she's got a whole house full of beautiful stuff. I think it's about just talking. Couples talking, families talking together, in-laws chatting, not having arguments, but just talking about life today. How things are working. It just helps the marriage along. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah. I mean that's very true. That as men, probably having grown up in a village like you say, we are probably used to just wanting to do things by our own, right? But now you come to the city.
And you provide and you love to do it.
Exactly.
You're supposed to get
It gives
for
us
us.
so much, so much oomph, and our ego just, like skyrockets when we are able to do that. But now, I think it goes back to that communication that I spoke about earlier. That, if you see the family salary or your wife and your husband salary as one, you know, that's key. That's where it starts. But I think as men sometimes, I feel we need to be given that space, to still be, even though I may earn less, we need to still be afforded that space to be the head of the house, to still lead, the household, to still be involved in, key decisions making process of the household. But I think as men, we should also take a step back and say, yes, my wife might be earning more, but there's a whole lot of other values that I bring to the table.
Absolutely.
The fact that she brings, the bigger check on the table, chances are she's away from the household for most of the time. I'm probably the one who's taking the kids to school, picking them up, making sure that the homework is done. When she's working late, she's not worried that there's no one at home. When she's stressed, I'm there to give her that necessary support. But the one big advice I would give to my fellow brothers out there is if you find yourself in that situation, you need to support your wife, and most importantly, you need to appreciate her. You need to make her feel that she's appreciated for what she's doing for you and your family. Women like to be appreciated. So appreciate her, support her for what she's being able to do.
I also want to add, from a spiritual perspective, is, in the Bible, um, God blesses the household. So God blesses Cornelius, God blesses Jacob. So even though the wife earns more, right? Let's say your wife earns more than you, Zach. God blesses Zach's household.
Correct.
He doesn't give it to the wife. I'm going to speak to the woman to puff herself up, to make her feel that she is better, to be in competition with her husband. No, God blesses the household. So, like Zax has explained, if you bring your 30 and he brings his 10, it makes it 40. And then from there, you work around it. I think men don't mind as much if the wives earn more. It's just they don't discuss it with their husbands. And they make these decisions that without them, and that makes them feel less of a husband and feel less valued. I'm not saying all women, and I'm not saying all men, please. Just note, I'm just talking generally. So there was a man on social media that says, oh, you know what? If a woman earns more than me, then I am not a man. And I think he was a Christian or something like that. And I'm thinking, you know what? We are in circumstances in times of plenty and in times of nothing. These are circumstances. And we need to be thankful for the provision, not who provides. Thank you for the house and for the provision. When he said that I'm a provider, remember that's traditional. Provider comes from tradition, not biblical.
Yes, yes.
And you know why? Because there's nowhere in the Bible where it says the man must earn more than a woman.
No.
Right? So the household is blessed. And today's modern society, it's a different way it's coming. And we need to adapt, work with our partner, and do as much as we can. Point number one of these men said on social media that, when I had a business, I had a wife. Now I don't have a business. Now I don't have a wife. It's almost as if to say the wife now left him because he doesn't have money. That is not the case in most cases. Is when the man loses his business, he's not very loving to the wife. He's not appreciative to the wife, like you said. Oh, you're the boss, so you can make a decision. Oh, no, you earn more than me. And it's very, very demeaning and sometimes emotionally abusive when the woman is just trying to keep the family going. Instead of being appreciative and saying, look, how can you do this? And that's how women decide, I'm not condoning it, but where they say, you know what, I am just tired of being emotionally abused, not appreciated. And it could be for both sides, it could be both gender, I'm not being gender biased. I'm not appreciated, I'm emotionally abused. I can't, it's too heavy, and I have all the bills, and I have all the responsibilities in the house.
Yes.
That is when the woman feels, but if I'm doing all this on my own, I might as well just do it on my own.
Yeah.
And like Zach is saying, sit down and say, look, this is probably not permanent. This is not for life. But while we're in this situation, how can we help each other and work? And I want to come back to this guy that says, a man that's not a provider is not a godly thing. I do know that the Bible says if a man doesn't work, he doesn't eat. But that is not the lazy one, not the one that's trying to help the wife in the home, trying to do stuff. The one thing that stood out for me when I heard that it's not biblical if the man is not a provider is the Proverbs woman and her husband adjusted to the times.
Yeah.
He sat in the gates and he was honored as a leader there and spoke with the people, and she honored him. Remember, the Proverbs 31 woman bought property, she bought material, she sold clothing, the best linen, purple linen, even the children were dressed beautifully. There wasn't that, oh, so you are earning more than me, this is not biblical. Oh, you are earning more than me, this shouldn't be happening. It's a circumstantial thing. And people, men and women, are trying very hard to adjust. And it is affecting the marriage. If this man feels honored by the community, it means she's honoring him in the community. She's not telling the parents, oh, you know what, or the family, oh, he's doing nothing, he's bringing no money, blah, blah. She doesn't. She honors him. That is why he feels honored with the community. And you know what? When a circumstance, and it happened in our marriage as well, everyone is going to go to a low time and everyone's going to be a high time. Sometimes the husband loses the job, sometimes the wife loses the job. It's the reality of life. And it's not the challenges that breaks up marriage. It's how you're going to manage those challenges.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, just to add on to what you're saying, doctor. I mean, if a man loses a job or his businesses, go under, right? Him as an individual at that time is going through a lot, right? And if he doesn't deal with that part of himself, he then brings that to the marriage, because now he can't possibly probably drive that car, fancy car outside. He can't, do whatever he used to do to get his ego or to feel good about himself. So he's in a state. He's no longer the loving and the caring husband in the house. The wife is also now stressed that this husband of mine that used to be so loving and caring has now become somebody that I don't know. She's frustrated, like you say. Instead of sitting down and say, wifey, this is how much I used to bring. You know that one, two, three has happened. This is how little I can now, afford. How do we then work with this? If that communication can be open and the man can openly admit that I'm not coping with the fact that I'm not able to provide like I used to, in many instances, I tell you now, you'll find the wife trying to help that man, not feel the way he's probably feeling at the time. But I think as men, generally, we don't want to come out and talk about things like this, right?
Or talk to somebody.
Or talk to somebody, which is where I think, people like yourselves, come in, Don't be shy to go and talk to someone and be vulnerable and say, this is where I am. Things are not working out, Instead of then fighting my wife and my marriage getting affected, how do I deal with myself and how can my wife possibly, support me? And don't be, embarrassed to lower your standard of living if your finances are not okay at the time. Things will pick up again, but speak to your wife, be vulnerable, But again, there's probably that small percentages of women that will then, if I lose my job today, tomorrow I no longer have a wife. But I think in many instances, your wife will be willing to support you and pick you up.
Absolutely. And sometimes you're not able to buy property. Oh, yeah, that's something, hey? You're not able to buy the property, the woman is going to buy the property.
Yes,
And it is a huge thing for a man, isn't it?
it is. It is.
And look at the province when she bought land with fields. Talk about why property so essential for a man. It's to show that I'm providing. It's besides the finances. What is significant about the man and property? Why does it?
So, I mean, I can specifically talk for most of the African men, when you are raised and you are a grown up, we we don't feel complete if we don't have a home of our own, right? And then a home of our own must be something that I contributed towards it. That's just how it is. We are raised to have our own homes and raise our own kids in that home. So it's just something that, even if she's my wife, she doesn't make me feel, somehow that I'm living in a house until, we buy something that I can feel that I significantly contributed towards it. There's always going to be that man part of me that is not entirely complete.
Would you then say that, let's say, for example, a woman earns a good salary and she can afford a good bond, do you think the man's name can go on there even if he doesn't pay towards it?
Yes, I
For
mean,
him to feel valued, or won't he feel valued? In any case, we just leave it.
but again, it goes back to that point we said earlier that, I mean, I know you're saying she's buying the house, but if we married and she's buying a house, I should not see it as she's buying the house. We buying the house. When we go to
It's
sign,
really difficult,
I
eh?
know.
For the African man. I think all men, not just African men,
Yes,
is that I've always dreamt of buying the house for my family. Now she's
yes,
buying it.
yes. But if you sit and you discuss and you see her salary as your salary or as the family salary, when you go those, sign those papers, I'm gonna put on my jacket and my suit and everything else and go sign those papers and say the house is mine. But I think that was also, done, or we feel that it also comes from that thing that a man must always be, a provider. As a man, that will always, like push me to work hard, and be able to put something significant on the
But it's
table.
always said, I mean, it's in South Africa. The reality is not that all men are going to get jobs. And I'm not making excuses, but that is the reality.
Yes.
It's tough. And so we just need to do what we can. And I know sometimes men feel, breadwinners feel, I can't anymore. It's just too much. I can't. I think there will be times when you would feel, I can't anymore. I, I won't be able to get through this. Just remember, live today for today. Today, I'm asking God for strength. And I'm going to do what I can do tomorrow. I don't know what the future holds. He knows. And then the next day, you get up again and you say, today I'm thanking God for my bread. And I need strength for the today. I need strength to get through. And like the Bible says, don't worry about tomorrow. And I think that verse you don't take so for granted, Jakes, until you have nothing.
Yeah.
Until you only have God, and then you've got to say, I only have you, and I'm going to have to not think about tomorrow. I'm going to trust you for today. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to trust you again for the day, and that breakthrough will come. Believe me, I'm married for many years. I know every challenge, not all though. Not all. There's always, till you die, there is always something to learn and grow in, but you've got to take it one day at a time. What I want to encourage women, I know that you're saying, Dr. M, but he doesn't even show love. He doesn't hug me. I'm working so hard. He doesn't hug me. He doesn't say he loves me. He doesn't spend time with me. He's on his phone all the time. Guys, sit and talk. That is what my title is Dr. M at coffee time. Sit and talk. Have a cup of coffee and just chat. Don't accuse. Chat. Don't say you are like this and yes, you are selfish and you are lazy. These are words you can't withdraw. Say something like, when you don't help me, I feel abandoned. I feel unloved. Talk about your feelings. You can never go wrong with your feelings. But give each other that opportunity to talk. Don't avoid your wife. Don't stay out all night. Don't, when you sit When she sits in the tea room, you sit in the bedroom. When she sits in the bedroom, you sit in the tea room. The key is communicating. How best can we do that? And yes, divorce rate is very high. It is. But you know what? Those years there was less skills. Social media wasn't there to teach you how to raise your children. Social media wasn't there to teach you how to treat your wife. Now, watch and learn and implement and learn from others that have come through. Forgiveness is easy, but that's another difficult topic. I'm not going to talk about that. But if you forgive easy, you negotiate easier, it helps a little bit more than both not negotiating, both is unforgiving. It makes it even more harder. But there are a lot of things that we need to learn in marriage. And I hope that this has brought some light to you and some help to you in any way. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sykes,
Thank you,
for
Doctor,
coming
for having
and
me.
for just
I
blessing
really
us.
appreciate it. Thank you.
We were trying to feel alive.